Around since 2003. And I'm going to take an approach of giving you a little bit of background of myself and kind of guiding you through certain phases of our company's existence. But we started in 2003 as new entrepreneurs in the space. It was not dominated by a ton of companies, just a handful of companies at the time we started. And we came into the space wanting to make the service better or wanting to provide a better service than the options that existed around that time. And just a little bit about me. I grew up in the Detroit area, so I am a native of Detroit. I wasn't born and raised in Farmington Hills, not Novi, not Ann Arbor. I'm a born and bred Detroiter. So I grew up there. I went to Detroit public schools. I graduated from a Detroit high school before entering into college at the U of M. But I think that's important to understand, just who I am and what I contributed to express. I had a very humble beginning. Um, my parents didn't have much. They didn't have much to give me in terms of finances, but they took care of me and my siblings, but also instilled in us this need for, education, wanting to better ourselves through education. Um, that pretty much lit a fire in me. So I love this quote by Yeats: education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. No, not everyone needs a college degree for success, but I do believe that for me, my parents instilling in us this desire for it lit a fire in me, to want to be better, to want to better my existence. And not just for me, for those around me. I mean, when I was in middle school, I had a desire to better my education, even within the classes I took in middle school. I used to spend hours with my principal trying to figure out a way to make the classes better or even hire better teachers in middle school in Detroit. And that even inspired my school principal to nominate me for academic scholarship that I eventually used to get into to the U of M to fund my university education, provided I meet certain eligibility requirements for the scholarship program. But it was because of that tenacity, that tenaciousness, that desire to make something better, to make my existence better, and co-create that existence for myself and even others, that led to that nomination for that scholarship program. So um, that was the kind of person I am, what I contributed to my existence back then. And being able to, without any type of resources coming from my parents, be able to get into the University of Michigan, it allowed me to be able to believe in myself enough to know that I could do anything. And that was the fire that was kind of lit inside of me. So after school, I ended up meeting someone and we decided to start this company together. And the first phase of our business, Express Transportation, was really the startup phase, the growth phase. Experience is the best teacher when it comes to entrepreneurship. No one really tells you everything that it entails, but once you get into it, you start to figure a few things out. And even with my college degrees and my business degree that I eventually got at Wayne State, that was just enough to get me, going. But there's still things that you learn hands-on when it comes to entrepreneurship. So the first part, I would say the first 5 years or so, I would say I was learning. I was growing within that space. We were understanding how to meet customers' needs better. We were communicating with our customers, striving to be partners, and again, co-creating a better experience for them and how they manage their clients, who were those folks who we transported, and how we could co-create a better existence for our passengers as they got back and forth to where they needed to be with family, friends, or doctor's appointments. So part of that understanding and that creating those partnerships and really understanding our customer base led to us developing our own software at the time that did not exist for our industry, off the shelf. back in that first 5 years. I partnered with a company in Canada to co-create this software so that we could be able to um, electronically dispatch trips to give our drivers an Uber style platform where they could actually receive trips and transport clients in the most efficient way possible, which actually led to better efficiencies, not just for our company overall, but also for our clients. So again, it was that need to and desire to make things better for our customers and clients, but also utilize resources to co-create the best service and the best existence for the people that we transport on a day-to-day basis. So again, experience was the best teacher. We learned a lot through that phase. Again, making sure we partnered with our customers, being a go-to partner for our customers. And I think it set it up and having that actual technology as well and working on that and making it work for our business set us up well for the next stage in our in our company's existence. So phase two, I look at 2008, and I'm trying to tie this all to what we're going through today through the COVID pandemic. But in 2008, we saw a downturn in the economy. And of course, our business was impacted like everyone's business was impacted at that time. Um, we saw not only drop in some of our client base, but we saw some new entrants into the market, our industry, that believe that, well, they can drive down pricing. And we had not a lot of clients, but some clients go to other businesses because they got cheaper prices. Because at that time, other businesses weren't doing so well. And of course, they were trying to find cheaper pricing somewhere else. I like this quote from Oprah Winfrey where she says, doing the best at this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. When we were first starting out, first learning the business, starting to uncover the desires and expectations of our client base, we really formed these partnerships and these close connections that set us up for 2008, for that downturn in the economy. While there were some folks who decided to move on to different companies simply because of pricing, um, and not pretty much the whole entire experience, right? There are bigger companies, those companies who contributed a lot to our bottom line and overall revenues that stayed with us because of those relationships, because of those partnerships, and because they understood how the technology we were using at the moment or at the time benefited them and their customers as well. So we set ourselves up to succeed, to be able to adapt to that particular time and place and be successful despite the concerns in the marketplace and the economy. So at that time, we were impacted, but not as much and could ride the storm. And that kind of lends itself well to what's happening right now. The idea of, being sustainable through economic downturns, through storms such as COVID-19 and the pandemic. A couple other things that we made sure to do at that time. We set ourselves up because of the downturn in 2008. We made sure to have certain things in place so that we wouldn't have such, unexpected hits to revenues or anything else that will come through as a result of an economic downturn. So 2008 also taught us some lessons as well. There were things that we did at the time, which is making sure we had great relationships with our, not only our customers, but our financial institutions. Making sure that our financials that were actually in order so that if anything were to happen, such as a complete and total shutdown of our businesses, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we could ride out that storm. So those are things that we learned to prepare for, not necessarily a pandemic, but a downturn in the economy. We prepared for that in 2008. So now bringing us to 2020, when I look at the landscape for our business, our industry in this space, I mean, we have big players in the space that we compete with. We and who have asked to work with us. For example, Uber and Lyft, they do some things in this space, but we find that we have some of their customers actually, not just in the individuals who use those services, but also some of the larger companies that were using Uber and Lyft to kind of support their larger networks for transporting people who have mobility challenges. And the reason is because of our partnerships with these companies, our customer relationships, the benefit that our drivers bring to the table in terms of the care and the expertise they have with transporting and guiding and giving assistance to people who with these types of challenges. So our customer relationships stayed strong. We again learned from, our early on when we did our customer research, and we were prepared. Going back to that Oprah Winfrey quote, we were prepared and we did our best at that time to meet the challenges of today. Now, I would be negligent in saying that if I wasn't to say that not very many people are prepared for a pandemic. And there are a lot of great entrepreneurs that are not doing so well at this time. But there's always things that you can do to help you prepare for certain aspects of a time like this. And I'll leave you guys with this quote. Every adversity brings new experiences and lessons. And even now, there's great adversity out there. But I think we will all be better when we get out of this. We'll all learn some new experiences and hopefully get some great lessons from running business, seeing businesses run, and seeing things occur in our individual spaces that will help us prepare for the future. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, April. That was great. Do we have any questions for April before we transition? We will open it up for questions at the end as well. So, all right. All right, and next we are going to hear from Linda Gerard.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Michigan Technological University, for inviting us here to celebrate Women's Entrepreneurship Day. This is such an important day. The sun is shining, and it's shining on a lot of women today, and that's awesome. So I have a secret to share. Are you ready? If you had told me when I was 24 years old that I would be an entrepreneur running a 15-year-old digital marketing company, oh, and then I was married with a daughter, 2 very large dogs, and I mean really large dogs, and a cat to match, I wouldn't have believed you, or that it was even possible. Okay, maybe the dogs and cats, but really at 24, I had graduated from college with a double major in psychology and telecommunications. And this was before Google existed. So of course, what do you do with that? I ended up in marketing, the catch-all. I was shy, but I was a dreamer. And I knew that it was important to explore the possibilities. I just had to get over being shy. Now, because my voice was so small, I was more of a follower. However, I was closely observing everyone around me and following the tech industry heroes as Yahoo was starting to take the stage. Yes, Yahoo in 1994 came before Google. I don't know if anybody remembers that or even can think about that possibility, but it really was a thing. And you see, I was just a marketing specialist at the time. It was my first real job at a real estate finance company. And specifically, I was working in trade show marketing. Not glamorous, but a good job. I got to travel. I had a credit card. It was fun. But you know what? I just knew. I knew I needed more. In fact, one day, I marched into the VP of Marketing's office, and I demanded that we needed to focus on building a website for the company. Well, my delivery could have used just a little bit of work. He stepped back, and looked at me, from his big leather chair and cherry wood desk, surrounded by what we called tombstones at the time, but they're really just awards, and just complete disbelief. He's like, "Who are you? Security, who's this woman? Get her out of here." But I quit shortly thereafter because he didn't listen. He just didn't want to hear me. And I knew I needed to work in tech. So from that point on, my voice became much louder. As I bounced between a few technology companies, I paid some really close attention to what I loved about each of them. Culture was clearly a big issue in the corporate world. It was either great or not so great. I had some awesome experiences though, and made lifelong connections that I still am connected to today. And this again is before LinkedIn. So, I also noted on my journey, specific areas that personally gave me energy, like topics in technology around SEO. And I always hung out with the developers or the engineers, the cool cats in the break room. I loved their geek speak. Star Trek was always a topic over coffee, and I love that. I also followed that gut feeling, that gut feeling you get when you need to go in a certain direction, however as foggy that direction is. I mean, it's really foggy. The full picture will eventually appear. Well, surprisingly, it appeared for me in my kitchen when I found myself at home, married and pregnant, thinking, how do I start a company? And I'm like, I don't even know the first thing about finance. My brother-in-law happened to be over and he overheard me and volunteered to help with finance. It was like the sky opened up and the light was shining down. It was crazy. But one thing I have learned, if you just ask for help, no matter what it is, the answer or person always appears to help. You just have to ask. Shortly thereafter, a colleague became my partner, and voila, my entrepreneurial journey began to unfold. Now, why would I, a pregnant woman, want to become an entrepreneur? Isn't the corporate world the safest place to be? That's what I grew up learning. And I could tell you this, I know. The only way you can really be secure is by creating your own reality. Depending on others to determine my success and future is not what I had signed up for. I want to know the flexibility and the ability to create my future versus letting someone else take the wheel on my life. So, after a few bumpy startups, I launched Pure Visibility in March 2005 with a brand new partner. My daughter was 2 years old and my husband was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. Faced with uncertainty from every angle, that's where my adrenaline just kicked in. And so did the leads and the sales. What I can say about that period is that people from the business community jumped in to help us. It was the time with a lot of questions, like how to manage growth, how to manage people, how to manage cash flow, and how to manage my family crisis, ? Well, the awesome news is that my husband survived. I told him he had no choice and he did it. My daughter came to the office quite a bit. We had toys everywhere. It was like a toy store. Our incubator, the little incubator space was like probably 500 square feet, and we shared one desk. It was so much fun. We made Pure Visibility work. We just did. We grew from 3 people to 5 people to 10 people to 15 to 25 people. We moved our office 4 times due to the growth issues. At each stage, we had new problems to solve. That was fun and exciting. And we did stay focused on our core services. Remember, Pure Visibility is a digital marketing firm, right? So that focuses solely on SEO and paid search. During our growth, we looked at expanding services to web design and development, but we always came back to what we were really good at, taking care of our clients in SEO and paid search. Staying focused in a world with a lot of shiny opportunities. For me, that's really hard. I'll admit it, I'm a visionary. So I'm always looking around, but I always have to come back to my one space, my place, Pure Visibility. So zoom out 15 years later, no partners. I have a company by design, a senior level teammates with a culture focused on the importance of family and leading with your heart. Our company parties include my team members' families. Often the amount of kids significantly outnumbers the adults, which is so fun and high energy. from my perspective, our team members put in a lot of time into client work at Pure Visibility. And because of that, it can skew really the family life balance. I'm grateful to their families for adjusting, especially during COVID. And I want to make sure everyone is taken care of. That's my goal. So now what does leading with your heart mean? Putting people first, focusing on emotional intelligence to grow and lead, connecting from the heart through an empathetic lens. It's so important, it's so much more important today, more than ever. This cultivates trust and builds cohesive teams and a very strong workplace culture where all teams can thrive together. Of course, I didn't know this from the very beginning. It evolved over many years, many mistakes have been made and many experiences that could have been a whole lot better. But you have to always look to the future and learn from the past. As an entrepreneur, it's important to have a support system. I joined Entrepreneurs Organization 12 years ago. It's a global peer-to-peer community of CEOs. Actually, this is how I know April and Jenny. And this community has helped me remove roadblocks and grow as a CEO, as a mom, as a friend. I highly recommend, no entrepreneur is ever alone. There's always help out there. Again, you just have to ask. So I have had a lot of great people join me on this journey. The people that enter your life are there for a reason. Each person wants to work and contribute to a greater purpose. They want to be heard. Also, setting clear expectations is super important, super imperative and important. And quoting my favorite author, Brene Brown, clarity is kindness. Practicing this, you will improve your culture by leaps and bounds, and it will also tighten your relationships with clients. This is what I have learned. So summing up, entrepreneurship in my world, tenacity, resilience, positivity, empathy. Again, I created my company my way. I wanted to be available for my daughter no matter what. Didn't miss a single performance or school party. But now she's a senior in high school, about to go to college. And guess what? I feel that spark is starting something new. So stay tuned. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. That's great. A lot of inspiration there that you shared with us. We do have one question here in the chat. The question is, what skills did you learn as a marketer that translated well and helped you in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Listening. Listening. Giving someone your full attention, eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder, as much, laser in, focus, and repeating back what they say to you. That has been one of the most important tools to help me, because the more you listen, the less you miss the important things that are important to other people and take you to that next level. And in our world today, there's a lot of people not listening, and communication is it's just key. If you can't communicate, you're not able to share your goals and your passions and what you're trying to achieve. So that's one of the biggest areas that I see that a lot of people that need help in today. Even people that I hire sometimes, we have to sit down and work on the listening component, and we do it actively.
Yeah. Great. I have a question. You spoke about having a background in marketing as well as technical communications. I'm wondering about the interdisciplinary approach. Do you think that has helped you as an entrepreneur, having both of those areas of expertise to draw from?
Yes. So as I've mentioned before, telecommunications psychology, I had no idea that would take me to marketing, but it just felt like the right thing to do. But it turned out, it's like psychology plays a huge role in marketing, period. And then working through these different areas of marketing departments that I did work in, and the exposure to the different elements of the marketing strategy and how to execute a marketing strategy, and the psychology of working with others, and also being able to communicate to the target audience that you're trying to reach. Yes.
Great, thanks. Any
Can
other?
I ask a quick question? Okay. Is it okay if am
Yeah,
I
go
supposed to put it in the
ahead.
chat? I wasn't here at the start, so I don't really know, like,
That's okay. Go ahead.
okay. I was just wondering, I kind of have two questions in one, kind of like, what were some of the things that you wish you would have known at the start of your journey? And then also at the same time, like, what kind of steps would you, like, if somebody's looking to start a project or something that's going to evolve, what are the steps that you would probably say that they should take before they actually start, like, implementing?
So the one thing I wish I had, my 20-year-old self, left fear at the door. I wish I'd done that more. You know, that's you stop yourself. You little schmo sit on your shoulder and tell you can't do that. Oh no, you're not good enough. No way. People will talk about you. People aren't going to talk about you. People want to support you. They get excited when they find out that you want to do this project. If you walked out tomorrow and said, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it this way, a lot of people will just start, asking, hey, how can I help? What do you need from me? It's magical. So it's just a matter of, leaving the fear behind and just going for it. Really, that's and it's easy for me to say now, but I wish I had just I'm working through this with my daughter who's a senior in high school, and I'll go back to when you were a senior in high school, and lots of mo and schmo going on there, and you just gotta you gotta make it go away, because in the real world, that's not real. It's you're real, and what you do next is what's going to impact the world the most. As far as the project, I always take a step back and let my visionary self just write down, let it flow on a piece of paper. If it's better to just speak into your phone, though, that works too. But laying out all of the ideas in a natural way as it comes to you, and then organizing them as how you might execute it. So starting with the big audacious goal at the top, it's often called the BHAG in the business world. Go there, go to that place where it's scary, where people might tell you, oh, you can't possibly do that. That's impossible. It's totally possible. You just think about it. If you start thinking about it, then it becomes reality. You create your own reality. Does that make sense, Zoe?
All right. Good question. All right. Well, thank you, Linda. I don't see any other questions, but we will open it up again at the end. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
And next we'll open it up for Jenny.
How's everybody doing? Are you guys having fun yet? I know it's weird, right? We're in the Zoom world. I've never done one of these through Zoom, so it's my first time. Hopefully it will work. Usually I'm used to rooms of people, but it's always good to try something new. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. So happy to be here. I've never been where your university is, but hopefully one day I'll make it there. But my movie did play there. So hopefully you guys have seen it. If you haven't, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, The Russian Five. So before I got to where I am now, which is a film and television producer, I have learned so many lessons in life, and I'm going to share them with you guys. So let's start where I come from. So I came from the Soviet Union, a very colorful country. As you see, we had pretty much couple colors. It was black, gray, and red, just like you see this. This is Red Square. So again, you see it's sort of very drab, Soviet Union, behind the Iron Curtain. Everything you've heard at that time was definitely true. We had, well, as a kid, I always loved talking to people. So this is where my great networking skills come from. I enjoyed the telephone, even if it was fake. I also did have one of those big Russian hats that you guys have heard about. So you could see it right here. That's the proof. So growing up in the Soviet Union, we had lines, and we would stand in those lines without ever knowing what we're going to get there. So whatever it is that was there, we knew we needed it. Could have been toilet paper, could have been bread. So that is absolutely true that those lines existed. So at that time when I was growing up, this is what you guys were doing. You had video games, right? It was exciting. You could go to the arcade. And again, I'm kind of old, so you have this picture. Nowadays, you guys are sitting at home playing the video games. Well, this is what we had for fun. So we took a piece of elastic and we stretched it and we jumped on it. So that was one of the most popular games. Our second most popular game, really, this is exactly what it is. People holding a stick and they're throwing it at that can. Like literally, that's the toys that we had while we were growing up. So what did I learn from that? Absence of choice always sparks creativity. So we did not have video games. We only had one television channel. So we were constantly forced to be creative as kids. And I think nowadays we see this in society. Kids are very distracted. There's a lot of television, there's a lot of video games. And I think the creativity is really stifled by all of this information overload. So hopefully you can stay creative and stay off of a lot of these different devices, because that really definitely helped me tune in my creativity. So I grew up in Russia. We had a summer house, and I would go to my summer house to visit my grandma. Well, I would be exiled there mostly from my friends to visit my grandma. So we had a garden, and my grandma would make me carry 100 buckets of water from this well every other day. What I did not understand at the time is I would see a pump on the other side of this field. And I would always say, couldn't we just get a hose and stretch it and just water the garden? And she would say, no, you have to carry this. This is me later paying an homage to a well that I miss so much. But what did I learn? I ended up learning, oh, why is this not going? So what I learned from my grandmother is not to take the easy way out and put in the work. And this is probably at 12 or 11 years old, where beginning of my work ethic was built. And I did not know what she was doing. I didn't like her for that very much, but I did carry that water every other day. But boy, did it tell me not to take the easy way out. When I turned 14 years old, my parents came to me and they said, we're going to America. So we got on a plane, but we couldn't come to America. We were refugees, so we had to go to Italy. We left with $100 and 6 suitcases. A lot of things in those suitcases were things that we would carry to sell along the way in order for us to make money, because we didn't have any money. So this is Italy. We brought a lot of different things with us, and we would sell them at a market in Italy. Usually at this point, I say, who can guess what this is? But since you guys are not talking to me, I will tell you what this is. So these are condoms that are blown up. Because in Italy, apparently you couldn't buy condoms. So we knew that. So we would bring condoms and we would blow them up. We didn't really speak Italian. So we would stand on the corner and we would scream anti-bambino. So this is what a Russian condom looked like. What did I learn from that? When selling a niche product, you need to educate your consumer by any means necessary, which ultimately leads to sales. So this was my first array into sales and understanding that you need to educate your consumers, even when you're not speaking their language or selling things that are kind of weird, you know. So sales were coming to me at 14 years old when I was on my way to America. So this is how I pictured America before I got here. I saw movies. And I was like, wow, America is going to look like this. Instead, this is where I came. I was standing in Oak Park. This was the exact apartment where I ended up living. And I was quite disappointed looking at that. I also thought that people in America look like Sex in the City, as you guys saw. But when I got here, I mostly saw regular Americans, which was not the image at all that I had. So what I learned at that time is unrealistic expectations lead to disappointments. So make sure your expectations are always realistic. I couldn't have realistic expectations at that time, of course, because I pictured America just through what I saw, which were movies. So this is a Soviet Union fashion show. So my mother was a number second designer in the Soviet Union for fashion. Now, there wasn't much fashion in the Soviet Union, but there was some. So this is one of her fashions. So this is my mother when we came to America. She went to work for a Korean lady that paid her $3 an hour. And every day she would tell her that she doesn't know if she has a job for her tomorrow. And what I learned from that is don't be entitled and nothing is beneath you. I watched my mother go to work every single day. And she went from really being a designer, being one of the most revered people that everybody in the Soviet Union would want her designs, her to make the clothes, to go into work in that environment without ever knowing if she's going to have a job and doing whatever it took to keep us afloat. So when I was a young girl, this is pioneers, we were little communists. Everybody had to do this. I went to music school because you would go to music school, you would go to drawing school besides your regular schooling. And in my music school, I was told that I have absolutely no hearing. In Russia, they would put it that bears walked all over your ears. So I had no hearing. I had absolutely no chance in making it in music. And I better off give up this idea and go play soccer instead, which is exactly what I did. When I came to America, however, and I was sitting in that little apartment that you guys saw, I saw these people on TV. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, and you guys should Google this. It's called The New Dance Show. It was a Detroit version of the Soul Train. And it was in somebody's basement. And these people played the best music, had the best outfits, and they were dancing. And I said to myself, one day I will find them because they look like really fun people. So in one day I found people like that, and that became my community, which was house music community. And I saw people DJing and playing the music. So eventually I would end up becoming a world traveling DJ. And I would go on to play Detroit Electronic Music Festival in front of thousands of people. So what did I learn looking back at that is literally don't listen to naysayers. So all of those people that told me I had no hearing, they could have really helped me develop my hearing. Or if you really want to do something, I mean, obviously, if you're not, super tall and you're trying to really play basketball, even though there's some shorter guys that are amazing basketball players. So basically, unless there's something physically preventing you, and even that's questionable, don't listen to people. If you have a dream, go for it. All of it is quite achievable. And I toured as a DJ for many, many years before I started this career. So in business, I was a serial entrepreneur at a very young age. This is the first business I ever opened. It was in Hamtramck, Michigan. It was a resale shop. And this is where I learned about location. So my business kept getting broken into before I would get there from my house. There was no cops there. And it would cost me every time a lot more money to repair the shop, repair the windows than actually what people were stealing. So that business failed, amongst many different other businesses that I had that failed. And failure is just a part of what we do every day. I promise you guys, you're gonna fail. Nothing is perfect. Nobody is perfect. Failure will face every single person, every single one of us. However, what I learned is you have to fail forward. It may seem like the end of the world of the time, but failure is an essential part of success. Nobody has ever learned anything from always just being purely successful. Everything I ever learned in life has come from failure. And it's important to analyze every single time that you fail. And you just say, what happened? Like really, what has happened? And to be honest with yourself, to carry those lessons forward and to get up and to do it again. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today personally. Where are we today? So I am a film and television producer. This is me on set. One of the core shows that I produce is called Startup. It's on PBS. We're 8 seasons in now. And it's a show about entrepreneurship and small business. We travel across the country and we get to ask people how it is that they followed their dreams and what it is that they're doing. You guys can catch a show on PBS. It's on Sundays. On pbs.org, you can stream the show. You could watch it on Amazon Prime. This is us on set. We get to travel and do really incredible things like play with camels. And this is the trailer for the show. So you guys check this out.
Join us for Startup Season 7, where we travel through Idaho Falls, Idaho, Ogden and Salt Lake City, Utah, Fort Collins, Denver, and Boulder, Colorado, and back to Flint and Detroit, Michigan. Startup Season 7 features a diverse group of small business owners. Is this a multi-million-dollar business now?
It is.
How does that feel? Is that surreal for you?
And it didn't take me long to learn that this was not designed to sit behind a desk.
Is the business profitable right now?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Francis, how are we doing?
Dipper is a paralyzed wiener dog, and the owners decided to surrender him to the rescue.
Hard work, perseverance, and vision is all it takes. All right, let's get down to business. This is Startup.
So if you guys want to get educated in small business and entrepreneurship across the country, check out the show. So what have I learned? To always be open to possibilities. When Gary, who you see hosting a show, my business partner, came to me, I had never made a television show before, ever. I was already in the business. I had a production company. He said, do you want to make this TV show? And I was like, yeah, why not? Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody puts their pants on the same way in the morning, one leg at a time. So always be open to what it is. And maybe it's something you've never done before, but if you're passionate about it, if you're interested about it, then you should try it, because what's the worst thing? So it's not your thing and you'll start something new, but always be open. So after everything I've learned, what does it really take to make it in business? And mind you, by now I have spoken to, let's say this is 192, it's more like 300 different business owners in depth. I've learned how they did it, what they did. So I gathered some words that always are coming together. So it's perseverance, it's fun, it's chutzpah, it's sacrifice, it's grit, it's purpose. So these are all the things that's what it really takes to be an entrepreneur, and so much more. So I'm gonna leave you guys with one of my favorite quotes. Ideas are shit. I apologize for that word. If anybody's offended, execution is the game. I really truly believe in that. When people consistently ask me what makes people successful, you can have a million ideas in the world. But what makes people successful is really the execution of those ideas. And the lady that asked earlier, how do I start a project? You do it. You start by doing it. You just do it. The more you think about it, the more you go, is it going to work? Is that you do it and you go for it. And that's how you start. I know we're tight on time.
All right.
Good cut point.
No, we're good. Yeah, thank you. That was fantastic. So do we have any questions from the audience? Let's just go ahead and open it up for, you can enter your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you would like. And you can ask any one of our panelists.
Hi, I have a question. It's Elizabeth Rasmussen. Thanks for talking. That was a great talk. And I guess I can unmute my video too, so you can see me. Hi. So I guess that's a lot of businesses that you've interviewed, which is pretty awesome. And I didn't know about that show, but I'm definitely going to tune in now. So congratulations on that success in season 6. That's fantastic. I guess my question is, I love your points about just doing it. I think that's a great mentality to have as a startup, small business. I guess from those interviews and your own experience, what have you seen separates the, I guess, people who make it? And I guess there's different definitions of make it, but some people have loftier goals than others. And what do you think separates them other than just doing it, right? Is it, yeah, you know.
I think it's passion and being true to what you're doing. I mean, really, I believe it's everything. I once saw a guy talk and he said, passion doesn't matter in business. And I called his bullshit, because it matters so much. Honestly, when you tune in and you see a 19-year-old girl this season that created a doll so other girls who are African-American can learn to do hair and could see themselves in a doll, and not just a doll who is just painted a different color, but she's really truly passionate about representing different nationalities, different looks, right? She's only 19, she blew me away. By 22, she's got a product out there and she executed, but she loves it. She's like, this is what my purpose is. And I think finding your purpose and intent is probably the most difficult thing in the world. I did not find it till I was way into my 30s. I was trying different things and I was having fun, but it's figuring out what are you passionate about, what you want to do, then doing research and then doing it. And don't be afraid to ask people who are in this business any sort of questions. You'd be surprised at this level, at a higher level, how much people are willing to share.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, do we have any other questions?
I have a question.
I have a question for all of, oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Dar.
Thanks. All right. Hi, April. I am also a fellow Detroiter. kind of turned Youper, sort of. But I wanted to kind of hear, I think all the panelists talked about, a little bit about their background and where they were from, but I wanted to hear a little bit from you about your experiences growing up in Detroit and why it was important for you to establish your organization, your business in the community that you were from.
That's a great question. I appreciate that question. So I talked about, making things better. And so every time I start anything, it's about making it better. Again, not just for me, but for anyone that touches it. So I have a passion for, folks who are don't have access to certain kinds of resources. It could be because of financial, but in this particular aspect, it's due to something that they have very little control over. So everyone has a grandmother. Everyone has had a grandmother or a grandfather, or someone in your community that you've recognized needed extra assistance, but there may not have been those resources available. And especially in Detroit, again, my beginnings were really humble. There were times when we didn't have food on the table. We didn't have a plan for dinner. So being able to say, okay, this is a product of Detroit. I'm successful. I'm an example to, a lot of other kids who may not know that they have the ability to set a sight for themselves and achieve whatever they want, even a 7-figure business. A lot of kids don't have those aspirations simply because they don't see folks that look like me have those resources. But also being able to establish a business that's not just a resource for individuals, because we work with a lot of folks on insurance programs that are for folks that can't afford the best PPO there is in the world or in Michigan. We also employ a lot of folks who who need jobs in the Metro Detroit area in Detroit. So I'm happy to make that contribution to my community in terms of a resource as an example of what can be, but also providing employment opportunities for people in the city.
Great, thanks, April. Any other questions for our panelists?
Hi, I had one question. So this is just directed at any of the panelists, I guess. How did you guys kind of start your business like financially? Like, did you get funding from bigger companies? Did you just kind of figure it out on your own? And yeah, I guess that's really it.
I can start. Hi, Jordan. So my brother loaned me $20,000. Yep, that's how it all started. And it was the biggest ask I'd ever asked in my entire life. He's 20 years older than I am. And, again, I was shyer and quieter back then. And, but I did it. And he, we worked out a payment agreement, a loan, and I paid him back and then some. So I was fortunate because there were a lot of sales coming in and we bootstrapped everything for the most part. My partner also did take a loan from her family as well. And so, so we did not seek out a loan. However, there are a lot of loans available to women-owned businesses. There are a lot of loans out there available and grants. So that's there today. There weren't so many when I was doing it back in 2005, but today, oh yeah, there's a lot.
I have once borrowed money from my mother for one of my businesses and it failed horribly. And it felt so bad owing my mother $30,000. I mean, so bad because we didn't have money and I was so naive and, I had a nature of being overly optimistic at times, but I've learned my lesson from that. with startup, when we started a production company, you know, it was a very interesting story because we thought we're going to have a hit show and people are going to give us money, but we're on PBS. So PBS told us, well, now you're going to have to go and find the money. So, you know, we just like many other businesses had to go and raise the money. So I found myself sitting at American Express Tower on 41st floor, asking them for $450,000. I've never asked anybody for more than 25 before. And thinking to myself, what am I doing here? But it was a super gutsy move. And we ended up closing that. And I'm still friends to this day with this woman 8 years later who works for American Express. They no longer sponsor us. And she told me actually last year, she's like, do you know why I gave you the money? I'm like, no. She's like, the show didn't exist, but you were so passionate when you were pitching me about what you were doing. And then you said one phrase that stuck with me for the rest of my life, which was, I'm a woman of my word, and I can assure you that this is going to be an amazing thing for you. And she remembers that 8 years later. So when you're pitching, make sure you're very firm and very passionate so people could see that, because a lot of times they give you money based on who you are and not even your full flushed out idea.
Oh, I'll quickly just add that we completely bootstrapped. I had this thing about asking for money or even getting loans, so I never did. So it was just out of our pockets, and we literally just started small and just grew from there. I wouldn't, especially like Linda said, there's so many things available. I just judged EO competition for young entrepreneurs, young student entrepreneurs a few days ago. And ladies, just go for it, you know, go for it. I know the field of entrepreneurship is dominated by men these days and young men, but, you know, there are folks who want to give you the financial resources to start your dreams. So don't be afraid to seek those options out and be present. Don't feel like you have to have it all buttoned up to do a presentation, to pitch an idea. Just do it and you learn as you go. And like I said, there are people who want to make it rain, give you all the cash you need to make you successful. So just don't be afraid to step into that space just because you don't have the dollars right now.
Great. Thank you. We have another question here in our chat. Can you share experiences about planning the startup costs and how long you had to survive without paying yourselves? And so, yeah. So, and we'd love to hear from each of you for that.
Oh my God, I was lucky enough to be in music and DJing and in parallel to start my business. So I think I did not pay myself in my production company for probably at least 3 years. But I was DJing and I was playing and I had other source of income, you know, to support me. But it took a really long time until I paid myself, because all the money we made just went right back into business and paying other people and employing other people. But that's a trade-off, right? You have to have something else. You will have to eat and we'll have to pay the bills.
Sure.
So it was about 2 to 3 years for me as well. Like everything that all the sales that came in, we had to reinvest into the company, hire different people, get new tools, what have you, you know, rent, whatever was needed at the time. And then somehow you also still have to show some profitability or try to, right? It takes a little while to be profitable, but you don't get discouraged, you get there. Definitely get there.
Great, thanks.
I would say that I took a similar amount of time, maybe longer. I would say this, I always paid myself something, a little bit of something, not a full like salary that I pay myself now, but it was something. I started Express as a side hustle that turned into my full-time gig, the only thing we're dedicated to. So I had other sources of income coming in, and it wasn't until we dedicated ourselves that it really, really took off. But it's always good to recognize your efforts a little bit, but it did take about maybe between year 4 and year 5 until we could really start to, see really great profits where we could start fully, paying ourselves for our work.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good thing for entrepreneurs to be aware of if they find themselves in that situation, to know that this is kind of this is something that could happen, and to keep forging ahead and stick with their dreams. So I just want to let everyone know that we are at 1 o'clock. Individuals have shared some resources. There were some questions in the chat about resources for finance and for funding. And so check out the chat if you're interested in that. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I certainly want to be sure to thank our panelists. Thank you so much, April, Linda, and Jenny, for joining us. This is a great talk. We've enjoyed having you. We hope that you'll come and join us again for another talk sometime. But this has been great, and thank you to our audience for joining us. And yeah, just take this inspiration, and happy Women in Entrepreneurship Day. So, all right, thanks everybody.